Multiple severe weather outbreaks are on the way, and this could end up being the most dangerous pattern we've seen since April. It all begins today with a significant wind and tornado threat across the northern plains in Canada. However, the greater concern builds for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, when widespread severe weather is expected across the northern plains, Midwest, and Ohio Valley. Damaging winds, very large hail, and the potential for significant tornadoes all look possible. Confidence is increasing that this will be a highly active and potentially dangerous week. Let's get into the forecast. Starting with today, Sunday, there are 3 separate areas at risk for severe weather. The highest concern is in the northern plains, where an enhanced risk is in place from Wyoming into North Dakota, including areas like Bismarck. A broader marginal risk also extends across parts of the central UDOTs, including areas near Tulsa, Fort Smith, Springfield, Missouri, just south of St. Louis, and near Kansas City. Another marginal risk reaches toward Richmond, Virginia. The main threat today in the far northern plains and into parts of Manitoba and Saskatchewan is damaging wind gusts, which could reach 70 to 90 miles per hour at times. That alone makes this a serious high-impact wind event. Large hail is also possible, potentially reaching tennis ball size or even larger. The tornado risk today is generally low, but it is not zero. A few tornadoes are possible, especially across Oklahoma, Arkansas, southwestern Missouri, and extreme southeastern Kansas. Parts of Manitoba and Saskatchewan may actually see a more focused tornado threat, including the possibility of strong tornadoes if discrete supercells develop. In the UDOT-S, the formal tornado risk remains low, generally around a 2% area north of Rapid City. However, the environment looks more favorable in Canada than in the United States today, particularly across Manitoba. Moving into Monday, severe weather becomes somewhat less widespread, marking the quietest day in the upcoming stretch. Even so, there is still a slight risk northeast of Denver, Colorado, along with multiple marginal risk areas across the northern plains, central plains, and the mid-Mississippi Valley. The primary concerns will be damaging winds and large to very large hail. A low-end tornado risk may begin developing across parts of Kansas, Nebraska, and Colorado, and future updates may expand this area. By Tuesday, the pattern intensifies again with another enhanced risk of severe weather. This day has the potential to produce strong, long-track tornadoes. At minimum, very large hail and damaging winds are expected across parts of North Dakota and far northern South Dakota. Areas from Minneapolis down toward Kansas City should also stay alert as severe weather may increase late Tuesday into Wednesday. Wednesday is shaping up to be a potentially significant severe weather day across the Midwest, with the possibility of a broader outbreak. An enhanced risk covers a large population center, including Minneapolis, Rochester, Owatonna, and into parts of Wisconsin. A broader slight risk extends across Minnesota, Iowa, northern Missouri, northwest Illinois, and much of Wisconsin. Cities like Milwaukee, Rockford, and Chicago are currently just outside the highest risk zone, though that may change in later forecasts. This day carries the potential for widespread damaging winds, very large hail, and a few strong tornadoes. While forecasting uncertainty remains, the atmospheric setup is favorable enough that this could become a high-impact event. Thursday brings yet another round of severe weather for a broad region, including Chicago, Milwaukee, Lansing, Grand Rapids, St. Louis, and areas near Columbus. A slight risk is in place, with threats again centered on damaging winds, large hail, and a few tornadoes. This would continue a multi-day active pattern. Looking more closely at today's setup, storms are expected to develop in 2 main regions. Across the central plains, strong southwesterly low-level winds are in place, which can support rotation despite relatively weak upper-level support. While the overall environment is not ideal for widespread severe weather, it is sufficient for isolated tornadoes across Arkansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, and Kansas. Storms are expected to become more organized between mid-afternoon and evening, roughly from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. The main issue is that early day convection may keep storms somewhat disorganized, but scattered thunderstorms will still develop across Arkansas and Missouri through the afternoon. By mid-afternoon, storms could approach Springfield with rotating structures capable of damaging winds and a low tornado threat. Similar conditions may occur near Little Rock and Fort Smith, an area that recently saw tornado activity. The tornado threat remains isolated and intermittent rather than concentrated into a a single intense window, meaning storms could produce tornadoes at various points through the afternoon and evening before weakening after sunset. A second notable threat today is in the far northern plains and Canada. Saskatchewan and Manitoba are in an environment that may support strong to potentially significant tornadoes later this afternoon and evening. Atmospheric parameters suggest the potential for very favorable conditions if discrete supercells form, including values supportive of strong tornado development near parts of Manitoba. Overall, this is a dynamic and evolving severe weather setup that will require close monitoring over the coming days. There is not a lot of wind shear in place, so this is not an environment that strongly supports widespread significant tornadoes. Instead, by around 5 to 6 p.m, a line of thunderstorms is expected to develop across Montana and Wyoming. At the same time, discrete supercells are likely to form farther north in southeastern Saskatchewan and western Manitoba. These storms could produce very large hail, damaging winds, and even a risk of a couple of strong tornadoes. The most serious tornado threat today appears to be focused in Canada. While a brief isolated storm west of Winnipeg can't be completely ruled out, the overall risk in that area remains relatively low. By around 8 p.m, a few storms may still be capable of producing a strong tornado or two before gradually organizing into a broader line of thunderstorms. That line will then weaken as it moves toward Grand Forks and Fargo overnight into early Monday morning. On Monday, another round of severe weather is expected across 3 main regions. One area includes the northern plains, where a few severe storms may bring large hail and damaging winds. A second area is the mid-Mississippi River Valley, where storms during the day could produce large hail, damaging winds, and perhaps an isolated tornado or two, especially near Cape Girardeau and Memphis. The primary focus for Monday, however, is the Central Plains. Storms are expected to develop between about 6 and 7 p.m, near places like Colby, Sterling, and Scottsbluff. These storms will mostly produce damaging wind gusts from downbursts, though an isolated tornado cannot be ruled out. There is also the possibility that a remnant boundary sets up near Salina and Kansas City. If that occurs, a storm developing in that zone could produce a tornado, and even a strong tornado is not completely out of the question, though the setup is highly conditional. Overnight, the line of storms will continue eastward toward Columbus, Lincoln, Omaha, and Sioux City, producing winds up to around 60 miles per hour and a low-end hail threat. The tornado risk should drop to near zero by this point, though frequent lightning will continue, potentially creating an impressive lightning display into the early morning hours Tuesday, especially near Omaha. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are shaping up to be some of the most significant severe weather days since April. May was relatively quiet overall, with few major widespread severe weather events, aside from a couple of notable tornadoes in Mississippi. This upcoming stretch has the potential to produce more impactful, larger scale events, including possible severe weather outbreaks or even a tornado outbreak. On Tuesday, a strong low-level jet is expected to develop across the northern plains, helping to support a more active severe weather day. Storms are likely to initiate around 5 to 6 p.m. in North and South Dakota. While some models suggest multiple discrete supercells, the more likely scenario is 1 or 2 dominant storms capable of producing very large hail and possibly a strong long-track tornado. By 8 to 9 p.m, these storms should begin to organize into a line, reducing the tornado threat but maintaining a significant risk for damaging winds and large hail across areas near Aberdeen, Jamestown, and east of Bismarck. Through midnight and into the overnight hours, damaging winds and hail may continue, with a few embedded tornado risks still possible. Wednesday has the potential to be an especially significant severe weather day across the Midwest. A strong low-level jet is expected to intensify across the region, peaking around early evening, typically the most favorable time for severe weather development. In addition, upper-level winds will be quite strong, associated with a negatively tilted trough, a setup that often enhances severe storm organization and can support tornado development. Early indications suggest an elevated risk for damaging winds, large hail, and possibly discrete supercells capable of producing tornadoes. Areas of concern currently include Minneapolis, Rochester, Wausau, and Appleton, though the exact placement will likely change as newer data arrives. By around 7 p.m, storms may organize into a solid line extending from southern Missouri into the upper peninsula of Michigan. Cities such as Appleton, Davenport, Milwaukee, and Chicago should stay alert as Wednesday could become a high-impact severe weather day. Thursday may bring yet another round of significant severe weather, with scattered to widespread storms possible across the Midwest, Great Lakes, and Ohio Valley. Damaging winds and tornadoes are both possible across a broad area that may include Kentucky, Ohio, and Tennessee. By Friday, the severe weather threat may begin to decrease somewhat, but we will still be in the peak of the severe weather season. This will be an active stretch, and conditions will continue to require close monitoring over the next several days.